A very fine thank you this evening to our presenting sponsor, TDS Fiber. And for all of you joining from home, our subscribers, our readers, and our audience, thanks for taking the time to learn just a little bit more about this year's election 2020 and who's on the ballot. Tonight, we'll be visiting in the first half with three candidates for the United States Congress, followed by United States Senate in our second half. We'll take a short break, get those guys loaded up, and we'll jump right back online. So please stay tuned. I'm Clint Schroeder, regional publisher of the Coeur d'Alene Press and the North Idaho Hagedorn newspaper group, and I'll be the moderator for this evening's town hall. This evening's questions have been submitted by the readers and subscribers of the Coeur d'Alene Press and have not been shared with the candidates in advance. All of the candidates have been briefed on the process for this evening's event and have agreed to follow some established guidelines to help keep us on track. Some reminders: candidates will receive a 15-second warning when their time is expiring and will be muted at the conclusion of time. This forum is being recorded and live streamed on Facebook. The recorded version will be edited to include names, race identification, and of course the credits, and will be made available on www.cdapress.com tomorrow morning. Remember, this is not a debate. This is a question and answers forum, meaning the candidates will not be given time for rebuttal. Remember, time is being strictly managed, so use it wisely. Earlier this evening, we conducted a coin toss for first position on each of the questions. Each candidate will be given the chance to answer at least one question in first position. Now, with all of that said, it's time to begin. Each of the three candidates for Congress tonight will have 3 minutes to introduce themselves, and we'll begin with incumbent Congressman Russ Fulcher. We'll then hear from the challengers, Rudy Soto and Joe Evans, in that order. So with that said, Congressman, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and thank you to the Coeur d'Alene Press for putting this forum on tonight. But I'm Russ Fulcher, and Idaho is my home, and it's been my family's home for more than 100 years. I was born and raised and educated here, and I've lived here my whole life. I'm blessed in part because of those Idaho roots to have a good resume that I believe applies to this job very well. I grew up on a dairy farm in Idaho. As a young man, I got involved with the technology industry, and that sent me all over the nation and all over the world for more than 20 years. From there, I spent 10 years as an Idaho state senator while running a commercial real estate brokerage business. I've been blessed to have a part in a number of major accomplishments. One is, as a state senator, being the author and the primary sponsor of the largest tax cut in our state's history. And just within the last 2 years, because of a fabulous staff, we've been able to return more than $2.5 million of money to Idahoans. It was rightfully theirs, but yet it was stuck in some federal bureaucracy. In the last 2 years, it has been an honor to represent the state of Idaho in Congress, and it's been a very, very tumultuous time. But even though it has been, I'm very pleased that we've been able to build some very strong relationships on both sides of the aisle and to get educated on the process. And you have to know the process if you're going to navigate Washington, D.C. And yes, I even got to know the president a little bit, whom I do support. Experience does matter, and especially now in such trying times. And it's my hope to earn the trust of the Idaho people once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Russ. I appreciate that very much. Second up this evening, Joe Evans.
Thank you again for inviting me to this this evening, Clint, and much appreciation for the Coeur d'Alene Press for making this happen. One of the few events where all three of us have been able to attend in concert and be able to discuss the issues. I really appreciate that addition to the capacity. I'm Joe Evans. I'm the Libertarian candidate for Congressional District 1. I am a United States Army veteran. I've had 3 tours in Afghanistan, 1 tour in Iraq. I grew up here in Idaho. I enlisted here in Idaho before going off and contributing to my service to the United States. During my time in service, I've had 5 children, been divorced. My children, 2 of them are currently serving in the United States military, 1 in the Air Force, one in the United States Army at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And they're one of the primary reasons why I felt the need to run at this particular time, in order to give my perspective to Congress on our foreign policy procedures, as well as our veteran affairs issues all across the United States, and especially how they affect people, veterans, and other individuals here in the state of Idaho. I admit Russ and Rudy both have a lot of history with regards to the way the United States government works, particularly the federal government works. But like most people in America, I think it's time we change the way the federal government works, so that it works more for the people, more for us, more for you. So I won't get caught in the "that's the way we do it" syndrome. Thank you, Clint.
My pleasure. Thank you, Joe. Thank you very much. Appreciate your service to our country as well. Rudy, you are next up.
Hey there, Clint. Thank you all at the Coeur d'Alene Press. Thank you, fellow candidates and congressmen, for participating in this. I'm Rudy Soto. I'm a Shoshone-Bannock tribal member, son of a Mexican immigrant, born and raised in Nampa, Idaho. I grew up impoverished in public housing, in circumstances which lead a lot of kids into trouble. I myself was one of them, and spent the better part of 2 years bouncing around in juvenile corrections throughout the state, actually. And so I was bad at being bad. I'm glad my parents didn't raise me to be that way. They were always quick to make me face the consequences of my actions. Even though I didn't appreciate it then, I did later, because I didn't become a part of the school to prison pipeline system. I'm fortunate where I was able to go on, become the first in my family to attend and graduate from college, where I was elected by my peers to serve as student body president. And I found a passion for public service. After that, I enlisted in the Army National Guard, served from 2008 to 2018, first in field artillery and the second half as a military policeman. I also worked in the fields of child welfare, public health, and economic development to help tribes pursue economic self-sufficiency. I also worked as a staffer in Congress for 2 members, learned the ropes there. But I'm running for everyday Idahoans, Americans struggling to make ends meet, simply seeking a fair shot at the American dream. People like my dad, who was laid off from his factory job, lost his health insurance, got sick, couldn't get treatment in time, passed away a short time afterward. He didn't have access to Medicaid expansion at that time because of leaders in the Idaho State Legislature who championed the cause against it. But I decided to run because of the passage of Medicaid expansion by over 60% of Idahoans in 16 out of 19 counties in Idaho's 1st District. I believe Idahoans deserve competitive elections and candidates and an exchange of ideas. And I believe that I've been able to bring that to the table. It would be a privilege and honor to serve Idaho in the 1st Congressional District. And it's an opportunity of a lifetime for me to be sitting here in front of you. And I'm just grateful for the opportunity. So thank you very much for hosting this.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. All 3 of you, thank you for your service to our nation. We appreciate a great deal all the ways that you have served. So on behalf of the Coeur d'Alene Press and myself, please accept our gratitude. With your introductions behind us, I'd like to jump right into question 1. And tonight, our first question comes from Sasha Fisher of Coeur d'Alene. So thank you, Sasha, for that question. And what's on Sasha's mind is, why are you the best person to be in a position of national leadership at this moment? Please be specific.
That kind of ties into the opening that I just went through, but I believe that the good Lord's given me something to offer with life experience. And you have to know where you're from. You have to know the place that you're from and what the value system is of that place if you're going to represent it well. And I've been blessed to be a lifelong Idahoan and understand that information. In addition to that, I've been able to, as a function of business, travel all over the nation, all over the world for more than 20 years, every state, 47, 48 countries, work in all of them. And when you do that, you learn perspectives on how other governments function, how other education systems function, how commerce function. And you start to learn what works and what doesn't work. And then there's that thing called life. You've got a family, which I did not talk about. I've got 3 fabulous adult kids, and that makes life worth living right there. But you're a product of your life experience, and that's generally my life experience. And I believe that it brings something to offer and has well prepared me for this job.
Thank you, Congressman. I appreciate that. In second position this evening, Joe.
Thank you, Clint and Sasha. Great question. As Russ put out, life experience contributes a lot to how we feel comfortable with approaching the different issues around the world. My experience in Afghanistan, the 3 trips there, in Iraq, being a military intelligence analyst that's lived and worked in Korea, in the Philippines, and in another number of nations around the world, I've come to understand a lot of those issues that Russ was talking about, their economy, their culture, the way they approach issues, the way they've solved problems, as well as the way they interact with our foreign policy, especially the way they interact with our foreign policy. So I've been able to get around, take a look at best of class performance around the world under a number of circumstances, including civil war, as well as what we have that's proven successful with our NATO allies in Europe, as well as our Pacific allies with Japan and Korea. And I believe I'm ready to bring that experience as a military intelligence analyst, specializing in foreign policy, to the table as a member of the United States Congress. In addition to that, I understand the importance, especially because I do have family that is serving. I do have family that are living here in Idaho. And I want to be able to make sure that they have the best options moving forward, that we're able to create an environment that's free, that gives them the maximum liberty and the maximum opportunity to succeed here in the United States and here in Idaho. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Rudy, you're up.
Thank you. You know, I think that Idaho not having anyone in the congressional delegation that's worn the military's uniform is a severe deficit, and I think that we would be benefited by that. And so for me, that experience, a veteran perspective, helps put people in places that are driven by have a mission-driven mindset, that will put country above party, that will work across party lines, that aren't going to contribute to the hyper-partisanship. That's why I've pledged to be a part of the Problem Solvers Caucus, which is evenly divided between Democrats and Republicans. That's why I've not accepted a dime of corporate contributions, because I want to be beholden just to the citizens of Idaho and fellow citizens from throughout the country in terms of who I'm beholden to. And I also think that we need people just with more empathy and sympathy for the struggles that people face. And I have a tremendous amount of experience overcoming challenges and difficulties. We're at the darkest, lowest time in our country's recent history. As far as I know, we have just, rampant civil unrest, division, hatred. We need people who are about healing and not dividing, and bringing us to the table. With the coronavirus and the over 500 Idahoans now that have passed from that. I have a sister that recently passed away, and it wasn't because of the virus directly, it was indirectly. And so we need people who are representing us that understand the seriousness of the challenges that we face and are willing to work across party lines to get things done, because we don't have time to bicker and go back and forth with each other. And I'm willing to do that because, I've been willing to raise my right hand, and, I'd be willing to die for this country.
Excellent points. Thank you very much. All right, moving on. Our second question this evening comes from Joseph Sims of Post Falls. Thank you, Joseph, for submitting this question. This is a two-part question, so make sure to thoroughly think through both parts and provide us an answer. Joe asks and states, this is undoubtedly a time of much division in our country, and some would say that it would be a crisis. As we face many nationwide challenges and see fierce divisions on a number of issues. Number one, If you had the chance to speak to the people of America and Idaho on the trials our country is facing, what would you say to show us that we're still united and that we can get through this together? And the second part of this question, what will you do to strengthen true bipartisanship? Please be specific. In first position on this question, Joe Evans.
Thank you, Joseph. I really appreciate that question, and namesake-wise especially. I think it's really important that we understand exactly what's causing the problem here in the United States right now. What is causing the division? And a lot of that is confusion, it's misinformation, and it's fear. We've seen an awful lot of fear mongering coming from both sides. And I really think it's time for Americans, not just from a leadership perspective, but Americans like me who are trying to create a better world, trying to create a better America, to stand up and actually be brave. Put the fear at bay and say, these are the things we need to change in order to make America free again. It's the big thing. Overcoming fear, becoming brave, and being part of the change. Now, this means reaching across aisles. This means reaching across to opponents. Right now we see an awful lot of division between the left and the right. We both understand that the system's broken right now. We both want to see both sides come together, because united, we do great things here in America. We always have, we always will. We just need to come to an agreement in how America is broken and what is the best way to proceed with fixing it. And that's how you start reaching across the aisle. We have several individuals in Congress, several individuals in the Senate who have done an extremely good job reaching across the aisle. We have Bernie Sanders as an independent. We have Thomas Massie as a Republican. Other individuals, Tulsi Gabbard, one of our Democrats. They've done a fabulous job at bipartisanship. And of course, being a libertarian, I'll be able to step in and I'll be right there between the middle, seeking liberty for Americans and that freedom so that they have the freedom of choice. They're able to make those decisions themselves rather than becoming dependent upon government infrastructure to come along and save them. They'll be able to start cooperating again.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Mr. Soto, you are up next.
Thank you. I appreciate this question. I kind of hit on it in my previous answer, but I'll just have to say that, you don't get there by being ranked the 16th most partisan member of Congress out of all 435, like our incumbent. And you don't get there by bringing Ammon Bundy style politics to Congress from Idaho. So like I said, I pledge to be a part of the Bipartisan Problem Solvers Caucus, which is dedicated, which is evenly split in terms of membership from both parties that are dedicated to addressing the most urgent issues of the day. And so I'm also a big believer, and I pledge to abide by term limits. I think that would be, I'm going to be pushing hard for that and strong in Congress. And I believe that will help us bring down the hyper-partisanship so that people are driven more to be citizen legislators, public servants, and less career politicians, people that are going to be going about trying to get things done and come back and move on with their life. I love a saying that I learned from the Army, which is lead, follow, or get out of the way. And if you're successful enough to get reelected multiple times, then move up and let somebody else have a shot. And, move up or move out, basically. And so that's where I'm at on this issue. And I look forward to helping be a part of the solution and not the problem when I get to the United States House of Representatives, with your support, of course.
Thank you very much. Rudy, Mr. Fulcher.
Well, I think what I would say to Americans, if I had the opportunity to speak to all of them, first of all, is look, we are all Americans, and we have some tremendous advantages. We are citizens of the nation that has created more prosperity than every other nation in the history of the world combined. We have an infrastructure that is present, we have a rule of law, even though, admittedly, right now it is strained in certain areas and in certain cities. But the bottom line is we do have a rule of law. We've got a rich history. We've got an economic engine. So these are the positive things that we need to be mindful of, is that we have that, we're not starting from scratch. We've got some good benefits behind us. In terms of overcoming some of this partisanship, one of the things that I've been most pleased with is we actually have been able to do that in what I believe is the most adversarial time in Congress since probably the Civil War. And we've had to get creative to do it because the system has been very, very stacked, if you will, against all members, but goofy little things that we call potato diplomacy. In order to try to get meetings with people, we take a little Idaho Spud candy bar and a bag of Idaho potato chips, which sounds really goofy, and it is. We put it in a gift pack. I write a note, and I ask for I send it to another member and ask for a meeting. And most of the time, I'll get it. And you don't get it automatically. You would think, well, one member can talk to another. No, not necessarily. You have to do creative things to do that. But the bottom line is, it is all about relationships and your ability to build relationships. Now, that said, I do need to put a disclaimer in there. The United States Congress was never designed to just flow smoothly. It was designed to be a place of debate. It was designed to have adversarial conflict so the ideas flow. And yes, you want those relationships, but you need to build the respect. You don't want to compromise just for the sake of compromise. You want to stand for what your citizens want you to represent. And you have to stand for what you believe. And sometimes that ruffles feathers. But if you build respect, you can make progress, even if you ruffle some feathers, but you have to stand for what you believe in and what is right.
Very good. Thank you very much. All right. Our third question this evening comes from Linda Putz of Hayden. Thank you, Linda, for submitting this question. And she'd like to know, do you view the Constitution of the United States as a living document or to be interpreted with only original intent, and why? So please be specific. In first position on Linda's question will be Rudy.
I see it as both a living document and something to be interpreted in a straightforward manner. And so that's why, for me, I'm a big believer and supporter of the Second Amendment, without a doubt. Much of my time working in the federal government has been in helping the United States government live up to its word with tribes, because I'm a member of a tribe and I care deeply about making sure that those treaties are respected and those trust obligations are upheld. And I think that's should be consistent across the board when it comes to our working with our allies and maintaining confidence and just my answer is that I see it as both, but it's definitely clear, and it should not be interpreted in a way that should be used to degrade its intent.
Right. Thank you very much. Second position, Mr. Fulcher.
Original intent, period. Words mean things. And they were, I believe, divinely inspired. And those words, which shape the rule of law that we have in this nation, have provided a framework that have been fabulous guidelines throughout history. Now, admittedly, we have strayed from those guidelines many times, but I am a person of faith. You can absolutely take that original constitutional document and you can tie the primary tenets of the Constitution with primary tenets of the Bible. And I think that is why it's been so successful. I think that's why we've had so much prosperity. I think that's why those guidelines, those rules have served us so incredibly well. So, and that's also, by the way, one of the reasons why in the judicial system, we've gotten into so much trouble. The courts have often turned into the legislative branch because they start interpreting law. They view it as a dynamic document. It's not a dynamic document. It is for the original intent, and the words mean things. And if we pay attention to those guidelines, we live by them, they will succeed.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Joe.
Believe original intent of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights are extremely important. Problem is it starts to get confusing as culture changes, as awareness changes, as we become more socially aware of the multicultural aspects that have developed inside the United States over the past 244 years. You know, the original intent behind the Declaration of Independence, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, the very founding principles of the United States. There was a bias by the original founders of the United States. A lot of it based on race, a lot of it was based on Eurocentrism. We've grown past that over the years. We've become aware that many of those biases that existed 244 years ago weren't justified. We've made great strides in racial relationships, sexual bias. We look at things right now like the Equal Rights Amendment, you know, which still has yet to be ratified by all the states. But when all men are created equal, we look at that as all men and women, regardless of sexual identity, gender, orientation, several things along those lines that have developed as part of our culture over the last 244 years. And I'd like to continue to see that cultural growth, that awareness occur across the United States without becoming bogged down in this bias that's either religiously founded, depending on whether you adhere to the New Testament or the Old Testament. You know, I'm a big fan of Jesus. I love an awful lot of the things he had to say. Not so big a fan of the Old Testament, but that was one of the things Jesus told us to do. Look at a new way. That's part of the reason why I like looking at the Constitution and the Bill of Rights in light of our cultural awareness, in light of our new knowledge that has been acquired over the past 244 years. So while the document has its original intent, we do need to apply new knowledge and new awareness against the original text.
Thank you very much. That was a very thoughtful answer. You guys are true professionals at this. We are so far ahead of time. I have prepared a fourth question, and I promise you we will be able to maintain our time frame by my asking it. So the fourth question comes from Jane Moore of Coeur d'Alene. Regardless of the outcome of the 2020 presidential race, how will you personally work to build bipartisan relationships in the United States House and with the executive branch of our government? Russ, you'll have this one first.
About 6 months into my first term in Congress, I could tell that things were unusually adversarial. So I requested a meeting with two of the old timers, if you will, in the U.S. Congress. One was together, Don Young, who has served in the U.S. Congress since 1972. He was actually president when Richard Nixon resigned. And Bob Latta. Bob is kind of the self-appointed historian of Congress. He's from Ohio. His father held the seat in Ohio from 1959 to 1989. Bob picked it up in 1989. But I asked him, I said, it really seems to me like there's a lot more adversarial conflict here than ever before. Am I right with that? And these are their words, not mine. Russ, we think there is more conflict here than any time since the Civil War. And then Don, he gave me three specific reasons why he thought why. He held up his cell phone. He said, number one, he says, instantaneous news. We can't hold a hearing. We can't have a vote. We can't have a committee meeting without there being instantaneous broadcast or post or editorialized newscast on it. So we have to overcome that every time. Number two, Nancy Pelosi has changed how Congress functions. Normally, it's the chairman of each committee that govern the agenda for that germane content. So if you're ag chairman, you do the ag agenda. If you're the transportation, you do transportation and so on. She said, no, I'm going to set the agenda for everything. I don't know why the chairman allowed her to do that. Collectively, they could overcome that, but they don't. The third thing, and probably the most telling, was when Don said, Russ, the third reason is airplanes. Everybody goes home on the weekends. We used to take our spouses to dinner on a weekend. We used to play in the Congressional Basketball League. We used to know one another. We don't know each other anymore. And I think that's the answer to this question. We have got to figure out how to know one another. You don't have to agree with people in order to work with them. But if you know them and you respect them and they respect you and they at least know you have the right motives, you can make tremendous bipartisan progress.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Joe, you're in a second position.
Hey, thank you for this question. Again, one of the things I look at is I'm a libertarian. I would be the second libertarian in Congress when elected. First, actually elected to Congress with your support. But agreed, there is significant division going on in the United States and especially in Congress right now. And as Russ pointed out, a lot of that has to do with the instantaneous news. And part of the problem with that is we don't actually do news anymore. We don't do journalism. We don't present the facts and allow people to come to their own conclusion. 90% of the media that comes out now is op-eds. We are fed the opinions that different organizations expect us to have in order to continue to operate. And that creates conflicts among our constituents. We have to dig in, we have to read between the lines, we have to reinterpret every opinion that's given to our constituents so that we can say, look, what's really happening is different than the way you've been led to perceive it. And that creates conflict because we're not the only ones doing it. We're not the only ones, whether you're like Russ in Congress, trying to negotiate what's going on inside the committee meetings. So part of it is media. It's about news. It's about creating and developing integrity in journalism again. It's about small organizations like the Coeur d'Alene Press that are able to look at things with intent, understand the facts, and present the facts, give our constituents the opportunity to come to their own conclusions based on available resources and available facts.
Thank you very much. Rudy.
Thank you. I just want to take a moment real quick to thank Joe for his answer on the previous question. It was much more eloquent than mine, and I agree with most of it. I'm also a big believer in the New Testament more so than the Old Testament. So on this issue, regardless of who's elected, I think some big things are on the horizon in terms of being on the table to get done and happen. One would be infrastructure development. I've been on in every county, every community tour throughout 19 counties here in North and West Idaho. I'm going to every small town in a campaign RV. Encourage people to follow me on Facebook and see where I'm at. But what I've been seeing and hearing from people is the need for broadband internet, reliable internet access. It's just deeply unfair for so many kids and communities to be completely left out of the interconnected world. And so I would be eager and willing to work with the president, whether it's Donald Trump or Joe Biden, to help bring rural broadband internet to Idaho. I'd be more than eager and interested and willing to work with Congressman Simpson on keeping public lands in public hands, on salmon restoration, on making sure that we can grow our economy from the ground up to provide for smart growth here throughout our state, and to make sure that we're permanently reauthorizing the Secure Rural Schools Act and the payments in lieu of taxes to make sure we're bringing federal resources back where they're needed and deserved. And so I'm really eager to work across party lines on issues like bringing down prescription drug prices, making healthcare more affordable and accessible, especially in our rural communities where we could really benefit from having more reliable access to telehealth and so much more. So,
very good. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time again this evening. I appreciate that. At this point in our town hall forum, you'll each have 3 minutes to conclude your thoughts and share just a little bit more about yourself with the audience. I will ask that you also use this time to help us better understand why you are the best candidate for the United States House of Representatives representing the great state of Idaho. We'll begin this evening with Congressman Fulcher.
So just to begin, I want to thank Joe and Rudy for participating with this, Clint for hosting. And in regard to Rudy's last answer, there is some good news there. We've been able to get a waiver with some of the CARES Act money so that can be diverted specifically to broadband. And so the governor's had a big hand in that. We've assisted at the federal level, and that's positive for everyone, as Rudy pointed out. I would also point out that Rudy mentioned the PILT, payment in lieu of taxes. That's true, we need that. But the bigger question is why? We need that because unlike most states, 2/3 of Idaho's landmass is owned by the federal government. Unlike most states, we don't have access to a broad-based property tax to finance government and to provide services. So we have to depend on that PILT money and the grant money. So that is one of the differences of Idaho and other states. So to close my comments, I believe that as history reflects on year 2020, one of two things is going to be reflected in that history. Either number one, for the first time in 200 and some years, America finally took that hard turn left and embraced a socialistic form of governance, turned away from its roots as a republic. Or it will reflect that once again, although the times were tough and challenges were stiff, America overcame that challenge and was stronger as a result. And I strongly believe in our representative republic, and I'm committed to do everything I can to keep that and to keep Idaho special. We're the fastest growing state in the nation per capita. And so there's a tremendous influx of cultures from different places, and that's wonderful. That can add things, but we also have those things that caused Idaho to be the place that people wanted to come to. We don't have a lot of the negatives that other states do. And the challenge is serious. When I became a member of Congress, there was a whole class of people that came in as members under the Democrat name, but they don't want to be called Democrats anymore. They want to be called socialist progressives. And they desperately want a socialist type of government. The social unrest. If you'd have told me a year ago that some mayors or governors would actually sacrifice their populace, their citizens, in order to support a movement, I'd say that's not possible, but it's happening every day. We need people with some life perspective and experience to be able to address those things. I believe that with that experience, I have something to offer and something to offer in that fight. But no one can do it alone. We need the citizens to engage. We need everyone listening and watching to engage. Be educated. Help educate your neighbors, inform, understand what's going on, and certainly vote. Right now, Idaho needs you. America needs you. Once again, Joe, Rudy, Clint, thank you for the time. I appreciate you. Thanks to everyone, and God bless.
Congressman, thank you very much. Next, we'll hear from Joe Evans.
Thank you, Clint. And as Russ pointed out, thank you, Congressman Fulcher, Rudy, Clint, for making this event this evening. It has been an astounding event. Definitely been able to get the views and opinions out so that our constituents can truly understand where we're coming from. Now, Russ mentioned that 2020 would be the year where we may look back and determine which path it was that the United States decided to take. Now, I tend to disagree with him on exactly when we made that hard left, because I believe we made the hard left 100 years ago. First time we placed an income tax in order to pay for a war, World War I. You know, Eugene Debs during that era, as we moved to unionization and socialization across the United States, and the government capitulated. Now, I'm not against A lot of the social platforms that have developed since then, whether it's FDR and his involvement with the Tennessee Valley Authority, some of those things turned out very well for their time. But part of the problem is we've created an addiction over the past 100 years to social programs, to socialized medicine, to a number of these other things, that it's time we step back and realize that we need to give freedom of choice back to our constituents. Give them an opportunity to make their minds up for themselves, how they want to participate in U.S. culture, U.S. society, in our communities. Do we really need more control up at the federal level, or is it really time to give it back to the people? That's one of the things why I think now is the best time ever in the United States to elect people to government who are ready to make that right turn to individual freedoms and liberties so that we can make our own choices once again, independent of government deciding what's best for you and I. Because frankly, over the past 40 years, they haven't done a real good job of picking winners and losers. It's time to put an end to that. Thank you.
Joe, thank you very much. And to take us home, Rudy Soto.
Clint, Coeur d'Alene Press, participants, Congressman Russ Fulcher, Joe Evans, thank all of you for participating in this. It's been a good, spirited conversation. As I mentioned before, I'm running for everyday Idahoans and Americans struggling to make ends meet, simply seeking a fair shot at the American dream. I myself have experienced the benefits of a strong public education system elsewhere that helped me pursue my potential. Here in Idaho, there's so many that lack that opportunity, that are no better than any of us. And so, I care about so many issues that I have a personal experience overcoming and navigating. And we need people in office who have more of a common touch and feel, that know what it's like to overcome difficulties. We're in the midst of the darkest, lowest point, full of the most economic uncertainty in our entire lifetimes. And hopefully we'll never fall this low ever again, or go lower, which we potentially could. And so I'm driven by a desire to help unite us, to heal us, to help us turn the page, to transform, to turn a negative into a positive, and to create a more hopeful, optimistic future for all of us, and to make sure that Idaho remains true to its heritage, and make sure that we can sustain ourselves for not just current generations, but future generations, and to help my generation pursue home ownership, to bring down the federal debt and individual debt, and by doing things like expanding opportunities to national service in exchange for college tuition and student loan forgiveness, and so much more. That's not about a handout, but a hand up. And so, with your support, I hope to earn this spot in Congress, and I look forward to working with hopefully soon to be former Congressman Russ Fulcher on a whole host of issues that we both care about, that are common concerns for all of us. And I'll employ this method of going to every county, every community, and establishing a mobile office hours of sorts to be a resource for people where they're at, so they don't have to reach out to me, but reach them where they're at, because I think that's the kind of leadership people need and deserve. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rudy. I appreciate that. Thank you again, candidates, and to those of you who are watching along online. And special thanks to our presenting sponsor, TDS Fiber, again, and the team at the Coeur d'Alene Press. This year's election, being called the election of the century in terms of voter turnout and participation, providing the electorate with the most relevant information possible, is a job that we here at the Coeur d'Alene Press take incredibly seriously. 2020, as we've stated, has turned out to be a very challenging year, but more so for our candidates who have a hard time meeting their constituency and the electorate. So we hope that this town hall forum has helped provide some information to those that are still uncertain about who they'll cast that final ballot for over the coming weeks. The most important message that all of us, I think, can get out there right now is just get out and vote. So we want to thank you very much, and now we'll transition to the United States Senate race, so please stay with us. We will return in 5 minutes. Gentlemen, good luck. Thank you again, and good night.
Thank you, Clint.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Clint, Rudy, Congressman Fulcher.
Thank you, guys. Look
Thank
forward
you.
to it.
Good. Give me a minute, folks. Bummer. Sorry, I muted that. Okay, so let's go over it again here real quick. I will not be participating in the Senate debate. I will not have part of that Zoom meeting. So you'll need to go to Coeur d'Alene Press, find out when they go live on that, which should be in the next 3 to 4 minutes. That will be between Natalie Fleming and Paulette Jordan. They are the Senate candidates that are participating in the debate because, you know, Rich decided to decline. Well, this wasn't a debate. This was a town hall. We played gentlemanly this time. But yeah, in the meantime, go look at that, like, share, comment, let the world know what you thought of the debate this evening or the town hall. Check out, see what's going on with Natalie and Paulette. Remember, family, friends, community, all your liberties, all the time. It's how we make things happen. Love you. Have a great evening.